What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your host, as always, Adam Perez, back once again with another review, as we're set to go ahead and get into the newest episode of Supergirl, Season 6, Episode 13, titled The Gauntlet, ladies and gentlemen. This past week, we actually wind up getting a notification from the CW in regards to their upcoming release schedule for the upcoming fall season. They actually went ahead and revealed that Supergirl will, in fact, be wrapping up the first week of November. So that's how far we got, maybe like a little bit over a month or so to wrap up Supergirl. So definitely go ahead and look forward to that, even though, to be honest with you, I definitely am going to need my tissues to certainly go ahead and get ready to say farewell to this cast and crew. While maybe not necessarily my favorite DC television show that I've seen the CW produce, I gotta say it's definitely some of my favorite characters, just in the sense of how much of a family camaraderie they definitely have kind of built over the past 6 seasons, and just seeing really the efforts in regards to the storyline from where Supergirl started off at to where it certainly is, right? We definitely have seen it have its bumpy roads, but continue to grow each and every season, and for me, it's just going to be hard to certainly say farewell to this cast and crew. So November, the very first week of November, Supergirl will in fact be wrapping. But we're not there yet, ladies and gentlemen. We still got plenty of story to tell, especially when it comes to Supergirl and Nyxly. And I gotta say, man, I'm really enjoying this storyline. I think the writers have really outdone themselves in regards to just building up this connection between Supergirl and Nyxly, especially by the end of this episode, where we truly have them linked psychically now. I think that's really going to go a long way as far as the emotional pull of this season, based off of just the adventures that these two have had just in the Phantom Zone, having to trust each other, rely on each other, and then sort of get a knife in your back, if you will, if you're Supergirl, and then really being thrusted sort of into this next encounter between these two. It's been a pretty emotional story for Supergirl and Nyxly, and I think as far as a series finale goes, if they can continue to pull at the heartstrings and some really great emotional moments between these two, animosity, trying to help, Supergirl maybe trying to help Nyxly, or maybe trying to take her out now since she's taking that extra step towards trying to get the totems and things like that, and with everything that's going on with Nyxly, I really do feel like this is going to be a great send-off for the Supergirl series. So I'm really glad that they have at least thought this particular series or this particular season through really well. For this episode in general, though, I really enjoyed it. I thought the humor was there. I thought the high stakes was there. Trials for some of our characters to certainly have to overcome, and some really solid emotions that we both see from Supergirl as well as Nyxly in this episode really did it for me. So, anytime I feel like there's a challenge or a trial or something that you have to hunt down and find before somebody else does, there is something about the pacing that really goes a long way in regards to that, and I think we're gonna have a really good time with the last few episodes here for this particular season. But let's go ahead and talk about the totems, right? Because it seems that's definitely gonna be what this second half is truly all about. Now that we've gotten a Guardian on our hands, with the Kelly storyline kind of wrapping up and her now being a superhero, now we get to go and dive truly back into sort of the Nyxly storyline with the Allstone totems, as we get the opportunity to have Supergirl going to go ahead and get some information from her Fortress of Solitude along with Lena to really learn how to go ahead and track down some of these totems. And so we get introduced to a Kryptonian witch in this episode, Vita. Not sure exactly the actress that plays her, but I really enjoyed her in here, to be perfectly honest with you. I definitely did think that she brought a sense of dread, high stakes also. Definitely doesn't feel like this search for the totems is going to be easy or welcoming for that matter, but I love her mindset, and I love the way that she absolutely comes across. And for me, the opportunity to see Vita a couple times in this episode was great, but the opportunity to even see Jesse Rath, who plays Brainiac, embody that particular character and try and pull off that same performance as the actress that does for Vita, fantastic. Jesse Rath, I feel like, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say he's the most talented actor in here, But as much range as they've given Jesse as Brainiac in this season so far, it's almost, or this the series I should say, not even the season, but the series so far, it's probably not that far fetched to say that maybe Jesse is the strongest link in regards to all the actors and performers in here. David Harewood's pretty good also. Melissa's no slouch, and Kyler is definitely no slouch either, especially considering her time on Grey's Anatomy. But I really do love the range that they allow Jesse to certainly have in here. So a quick honorable mention in regards to the Witch Vita. Absolutely loved her. But the trials, the rules that are according to this, she says there's an order to the totems. I'm assuming that you have to get them. Courage being the first one, which I appreciated the fact that the totem, she says, is concealed as artifacts hidden over time. And we come to find out that the courage totem is in fact designed, or at least hidden, as the artifact of the slingshot from the classic Bible story, David and Goliath. A fantastic symbol of courage, to certainly say the least. The third part of the rules are you have to activate the totem before using it. Using the word Cursex feels like something straight out of Harry Potter. And then the fourth rule is you have to submit to a test of character. Will take a deep and emotional toll, will not be present. And I think we certainly saw that firsthand. And I even put in my notes, wow, talk about raising the stakes for the final series. And I think this really adds to the Supergirl and Nyxly storyline in here, getting to see exactly what both of these tests are certainly going to be for both of these characters. And I got to say, especially when it comes to the Nyxly stuff, I love that, again, I've said this before, I'm a sucker for a great flashback sequence, right? So the fact that we get a flashback sequence, we've heard Nyxly plenty of times about how she's been betrayed by her family and things like that. Well, this is the episode in which we actually get to see it. And I'll be damned if I could be honest with you guys, this truly did make me feel even more emotionally connected to Nyxly. There's a part of me that really felt terrible for her being backstabbed by her brother and the way that her father certainly treated her in here. So the fact that you get to see Nyxly have to relive that, not just once, but twice, and how much of an emotional toll it certainly took for her. The Witch Vita was not joking in regards to it will test your character and it will not be pleasant whatsoever. And I love the fact that Nyxly goes through this, completes the mission, and is successful, but you can clearly see the toll that it definitely has taken on her, to the point to where she's kind of pissed off that even though Supergirl went through the same test, that Nyxly's the one that has to bear this sorrow and this anger and frustration still, and hurt after all those years. But she quickly comes to find out the reason why she feels that way is she passed the test and Supergirl did not. So if you ask me, we got a big L weenie for Supergirl here this episode, which is, I feel, pretty much is rare to say these days, that Supergirl fails a mission or doesn't win the day out. And I think this definitely puts her in a much more desperate situation than what we've seen before. And so I think for that, it really makes the storyline going forward even that much more exciting for me, to certainly say the least. But I gotta say, the idea of Supergirl having to find courage in her sort of flashback sequences, going all the way back to episode number 1, I gotta say, I love the full circle here. With this being the series finale, the fact that they managed to find a way to take us to that very first epic moment of Supergirl, it just felt super fitting. Like, it truly did. It felt very fitting, very perfect. But it does make me beg the question, why did Supergirl fail her mission, right? Like, if we look back at Nyxly first thought, if she's got to find courage in this particular moment in her life, she thought maybe this courage was to stand up to her father and kill her father. Clearly, she failed in that. The second aspect was, okay, well, according to her partner in crime now, maybe the courage is to kill the person that you love the most, which was in fact her brother, who also sort of betrayed her, right? To have that courage to stand up to somebody that you loved, and the fact that you know it's going to hurt, you know? So I love the fact that even though she attempts to kill her brother but fails because he throws the shackles on her. Her test of courage truly does come with her making herself vulnerable enough to let her family know exactly how she has felt about this situation forever. And to be able to get that off your chest, I'm sure certainly painful to experience, but courageous in its own right. And so looking at Supergirl's situation, though, where she saves all these people on the plane, especially her sister, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, so is the test of courage to let your loved one die, to like not reveal yourself to be Supergirl? Right? Because Kara, for the most part, has always kept her, her identity secret. Going back to episode 1, she clearly was reluctant to reveal herself, but she did because of the fact that she had to go ahead and save her sister. So I don't necessarily know if I'm going to go so far as to say the true courage of her would have been to still stick to her promise and not showcase her powers and her abilities to the world or anything like that. But that feels pretty dark and morbid. You know what I mean? On the other hand, though, there is the second situation that Kara had to experience of, I'm assuming the first time, not going and saving that bystander because of the fact that she thought she was going to be recognized or that her identity would certainly be blown, right? So we see her save the person and wind up leaving. And I'm starting to think that maybe she failed the mission because at the end of the day, her identity was still a secret. And if you look back at that scene, the gentleman is saved, but he never turns around to look and see exactly who it is, right? So maybe it's the idea of her not being courageous enough to just come out to the world and let herself and her abilities sort of be known, right? That idea of still being afraid to not let people sort of see you for who you are and just kind of save their life and then boom and sort of leave without somebody actually being able to see who certainly saved them. And so I am starting to think that it's not so much the first encounter of saving her sister, so much as it is saving the second gentleman who does not turn around after she saves his life. So I think it's the courage of putting yourself out there, being seen, and letting people know who you certainly are. So if I had to take a guess, maybe that's why she certainly failed. I would be kind of curious to know why you guys think Kara wind up failing in that regards. But I got to tell you, it really puts Supergirl and Nyxly both at great odds here. And I do wonder if there's a sense of redemption coming for Nyxly, right? Like, hey, you found the courage in yourself to do something that you should have done from day one in regards to expressing yourself. Like, I almost wonder if Nyxly will end up passing all these tests and realizing that maybe all these tests have done nothing but maybe make her a little bit of a better person at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And then maybe we get ourselves a Supergirl moment where instead of beating her to death with her fist, maybe she, maybe one of the themes that we've been seeing in Supergirl all season is using your voice and talking people from that ledge and solving your problems with your voice and your power in that sense. We'll see. But I do love the situation that it officially puts Nyxly and Supergirl in, and with them now being psychically linked towards another, with one another, they're definitely going to be able to feel those emotions that the other one is definitely experiencing. So interesting to see Nyxly win and Supergirl lose in this episode for sure. Let's see here. Oh, quick honorable mention. Great humor in this episode, I thought, when it comes to John and Alex, based off of the fact that Supergirl and Nyxly both failed the totem test at one particular point in time. It does activate the concept of courage in everybody that's been around them, right? There was a moment in this episode where Supergirl breaks the totem in half and it winds up unleashing sort of this courage magic or energy to everybody in the vicinity. And the fact that they both failed wind up activating those powers. So we got John and Alex, along with a bunch of other people, really showcasing their courageousness in various different ways. But I just thought it was funny, just the great great moments. Alex willing to go ahead and tackle this dragon. John just being super complimentary to everybody, right? Despite the situations that they're in, just at the most inopportune times. I thought it was actually really, really fun, to certainly say the least. So yeah, that was definitely a great honorable mention and a great balance to this episode that definitely had some emotional stakes in it, to say the least. Another quick side mention here in William. We're quickly coming to see that Andrea is really pushing him to get closer to the Super Friends, almost to the point of like, I don't want to say being villainous or anything like that, but she certainly comes across not that she has evil intentions, but that like at all costs sort of situations. You know what I mean? It was definitely a stern warning to William, where William actually gets to showcase to us that he's kind of been experiencing a little bit of PTSD from his encounter with Miss Schumacher, or Miss Tessmacher in the previous season when he wound up getting shot. I thought it was pretty cool that they wind up bringing that up. Dismissed a little bit too easily, if you ask me. I mean, the idea that the totem gives him the courage to overcome that and continue to pursue his leads and things like that, instead of feeling very much in the funk. I mean, I love the fact that Nia explains to him like, hey, it was just the magic that was causing you to do that. But the fact that he had to confront that, and he found the courage in that alone, certainly it seems as though maybe going forward, things will be a little bit easier for William. But I gotta say, guys, the last topic I gotta talk about here before we wrap it up, Lena Luthor. Now look, last week I came on here and I talked about the idea, please, let's not go down this route. And honestly, look, I'm still unsure about this and not a fan of the idea at all of Lena Luthor becoming like the next Scarlet Witch. Not to say that that's the route that they're fully going, but look, they've been hinting at it. They definitely have been hinting at it with her mom's past, her discovering this, the opposition of science versus magic with her, and now coming back to find out that they're fighting somebody that delves in magic, dealing with witches from Kryptonian and things like that. You can clearly see that Lena Luthor's storyline is very seamlessly now fitting into the plans of this final season. Again, I am not a fan of this storyline at all. It feels very much shoehorned in for a final season, in the sense of like, hey, let's make Lena Luthor a superhero, and not only that, but let's make her a superhero with power, so that everybody that's a part of this team can have abilities and truly be super friends. For me, I love Lena just the way that she was as the scientist, with her own issues that she certainly has to overcome in her life. I just don't think the idea of her needing powers is necessary in its final season at all, especially when you want to drop this bombshell on us in the halfway point of the final series of this show. But I will say, this episode at least executed the storyline relatively well. Understanding that Lena is going to be playing a big role in bringing Nyxly down with her powers when it comes to the totems and things like that. It definitely feels as though that's the direction in which Lena's going to go. So for me, I'm really going to be paying attention to see how the execution of this is all going to go. Because again, just feels forced and thrust in as a last minute thing, but the execution of it certainly may be there, as much as I'm personally not a fan of the idea. And if they can pull off the execution, maybe it's a bitter pill I'm willing to certainly swallow, and maybe a storyline that turns out to be okay. But I don't know if I'm ever going to be fully okay with the idea of it, just because it just feels like it's something out of left field for this season that feels very much out of character for Lena so far. But listen, you know, the concept and the idea of science versus magic is always a fun one to watch and certainly explore. And if there is any character that should be interesting for it to be explored with, it's definitely Lena, just based off of how much she absolutely leans on her science. But that's one of the reasons why I like her. I like her being sort of that opposition to all the other craziness that's certainly out there. Like, it does make me laugh, though, like when we get some of these characters that are so scientific and they've been around these superheroes for years and they've seen everything from under the sun that could happen, possibly happen, but you don't want to believe in magic. Like, what? Come on, guys. Like, come on. But again, if there is any character that I'm willing to at least explore and see how they handle it, it definitely is Lena. But again, very rushed, feels very last minute. But I will be paying attention to the execution. Maybe it's something that they can certainly pull off, but if you ask me, it's certainly not needed. But those are just my A+ opinions, guys, at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, I want to know yours. Those are the ones that truly matter. So let your thoughts be known about this particular episode in the live chat or the comment section box below. And you guys let me know what you guys have thought so far about the storylines that they have this season. But yeah, Supergirl takes an L, unfortunately. Great emotional stakes here between Supergirl and Nyxly. Supporting characters certainly always coming through, to say the least. Solid and very enjoyable episode here this week. So I'm looking forward to next week's as well. But other than that, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for me here. But I certainly will be back next week with a brand new Supergirl review for you. So until then, do me a big favor, as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.